Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a few weeks since I purchased this Jibun Techo, so I thought it would be good to do another kind of check-in with it and show you how I've set it up, how I've been using it, and also kind of give you a mini review and my thoughts on the planner. I didn't deliberately match my nails to my planner, but it works, so we're going to go with it. To kick off, I have not done a huge amount in terms of decorating this planner. I have literally just added this sticker because it was a new release in the shop and I loved it and thought, yeah, works. I haven't really been using any of the kind of pockets and things. I know I raved about them in the unboxing, but I think I did say at the time, kind of, if it's an everyday carry kind of planner and you need to kind of have bits and pieces with you, and the pockets will be really useful. This has lived firmly on my desk, therefore I haven't needed to use any of the storage or anything. Ditto the pen loop, because I literally leave it sat out on my desk with the pen on it. But I still maintain the cover is fantastic in this, just with all the different pockets and stuff. So going into the actual planner, so like I say, I've not really used any of the storage because I haven't felt like I've needed to. All I've done is added in my usual Cocoa Fusion tabs, so you'll see as we go through that I've used them kind of across the planner for different sections, but I'll kind of talk through those in detail as we get to them. So I've kept things quite minimal. That was one thing about this planner that I really loved and really wanted to embrace. It just felt like a planner for more kind of pen only planning, keeping things really simple, not going mad on stickers, just making it kind of really efficient, really productive. So I've stuck with that the whole way through, and you'll see that as we go along. So there won't be, I don't think I've used any stickers beyond literally the ones that I've used on some of these kind of sticky tabs. I've kept it very pen only and I do really love it for that. So this spread is just basically a copy across of the similar spread in my weeks. So it's basically just tracking my cycle, and I also use it for bank holidays and things like that. I've also used this for, because this is next year, if I know that there's a plan on a certain date. So at the moment we have one plan, which is a wedding, so I have just marked that off there, because otherwise it feels like this side of the page doesn't really get used. But it is also handy just to have a bit of a location to kind of notice, oh yeah, no, there's something going on at that time. Next up, this is the overview spread. This is probably one of my favourite spreads in the planner, just because I feel like I've been able to get so much out of what is quite a small space, and it does really make me think around how I use the similar spread in my weeks and could I get more out of it. So to show you kind of how I've been using it, so because there's 2 rows for each day, I've used the top row to track the exercise that I've done through just literally writing in the calories that I burnt, and then I use the zig dot markers to basically colour code what kind of exercise. So I've then put a little kind of key here, so did I play squash or did I do a VR workout, and then the calories. Here is when I had COVID, and so I just wrote in kind of my excuse for not working out. Then underneath I have used that line for recording my weight. I don't necessarily weigh myself every day, but when I have, I've written it in there. And then I've used kind of these 2 here as a bit of a habit tracker. So the top one is, did I hit my step goal for the day? The bottom one is, did I hit my calorie goal for the day? I love this. I think when it would be filled up, I think it would look really cool and would be a great way of just tracking everything health and fitness and exercise wise in a really kind of easy to digest place. One of the things that I was using, well no, the main thing I was using my weeks for was for health and fitness tracking, and I basically had most of this information spread in kind of 2 different places, which is what's making me think, how differently could I use this spread in the weeks to kind of get the same level of information in the smaller space. Not sure if it's possible, but it's definitely given me some food for thought. These post-it notes, by the way, are from Midori and they're beautiful. I love them. I use them sparingly, but when I do use them, I'm like, yes. Sorry, side note. Next we have the goal planning spread. So I did get Google Lens all over this after my unboxing, and basically this This has been originally split up into different kind of sections of goal planning, so kind of like life and work and etc. and things like that. So I didn't want to use it in that way. What I decided to do was turn this into monthly goal planning, and I thought that worked really well because I have kind of come to this halfway through, well, not halfway through the year, but part of the way through the year, so I can basically get the rest of the year out. Obviously, if you're using this for a full year, you might have to do something a little bit different if you wanted to use it in a similar way, but I don't have that many different categories of goal planning, so using it in the intended way wasn't going to work for me. And so all I've done is use the first column as the kind of the goal, or the overarching thing I want to go for that month, and then this column I've used as the kind of quantifiable goals. So get back to weight loss is the main goal, and then in this side I've written, okay, well, what does that mean? What weight do I actually want to get to? This one I haven't used, so this is the my event list. I haven't really kind of figured out how I would use this. I suppose one thing that kind of did jump out for me, but it's not, it would be good for other people, but it's not my kind of thing, would be kind of a highlight of the month or kind of a review. I think what would have been good is if this had have matched, if this page had have matched this, because then I feel like that could work really well to kind of do your monthly goals and then have a section where you can kind of review said goals and what worked and what didn't. You could kind of make it work-ish if you kind of joined through the year like I have, but it would kind of not link up as well, because like 4 would be there. It would irritate me as a perfectionist, but so that's why I haven't actually used this side of the page. Next, I have used the 100 wishes list for basically a shopping list. So anything that I know I need to buy, I've just added it on this list, and then I'll tick it off as and when I buy it. And I've just added I forgot to mention, so I've used my post-it note tabs for these main pages because I actually took these out of my weeks and repurposed them because they literally were set up in exactly the same way. And then I've just used Cocoa Fusion tabs with, these are icon stickers from the shop, I forgot to mention. And then the other kind of page, so I haven't used any of the other list pages that it comes with, but I have used this one as a pen test because I was keen to do a bit of a comparison on the paper. So as I mentioned in the last video that I thought it was Tamari River, I did mention in the description that I'd found out after I filmed that it's not Tamari River, it's the brand's proprietary own kind of similar version of Tamari River, so it still works amazingly well with fountain pens while still keeping the thinness. I'm gonna be controversial and say, actually it might not be controversial, this might be actually a common opinion, I much prefer this to Tamari River paper. It just seems to handle the ink better, it's a lot more forgiving. You'll notice as we go through the pages, I've literally had one smudge the whole time with my fountain pen, which is unheard of for me. If you've been following me for a while, you will know that I smudge my fountain pens anyway, a lot. This isn't a thing in this. It dries really well, it takes to the ink really nicely, there's no, I mean, there's absolutely no kind of bleed through. There's a similar amount of ghosting. It's pretty natural with a kind of thin paper. The only pen, and I don't even know if you can really kind of see it, that even slightly looks like it's bleeding through is this one, which is a fine liner, which is not something I use very often anyway. I literally use it for doing kind of the odd lines. So unless you're using fine liners all the time, you're going to get on with this paper very, very well. So yeah, massive tick on paper. Love it. Would buy a planner with this paper in a heartbeat. So next we go on to the monthlies, and I have really enjoyed setting up this monthly aside from a few bits. So number one, and I think I mentioned it in the unboxing, these pages are quite busy. There's a lot going on and I don't really feel like I'm necessarily using everything. So basically I'm talking about these kind of like little kind of emotion things, have kind of mood tracker, that's the word. Not really use those. It you know, I can ignore it, it's easy, but between that and all the other boxes and the checklists, it's quite a busy page, which has also kind of, it's another reason why I've not used stickers. I've kind of kept it pen only because it does feel like the pages are busy enough as they are. I don't need to add to it. But other than that, I do love the setup of it. So this habit tracker on the bottom is amazing, absolutely love it. Having the kind of sidebar for tasks, again, works really well for me and how I do my planning. The only annoyance is, and I said it during the unboxing, is I hate that this takes up so much space. So when you compare it to the Hobonichi Week, you can literally write from the top. And for me, I like to use this as my kind of week specific tasks. So here I've basically had to try and write them in order, but then when there's been something that I realised that needed to go back up here, I wasn't able to because I'd already filled it. So minor annoyance for me, that's probably just a me thing, but because of how I plan and how I set up my month with my weekly specific tasks, it was quite a bit of an issue for me. But like I say, this habit tracker, amazing. And I'll show you the one and only smudge that I think I've got in this planner. And that's literally because I was doing this probably last thing at night and then switching back to my daily because I like to leave it open on the daily. But the fact that I've been in this several weeks now and I've literally got one smudge, which for me, who smudges almost every kind of pen, it's a massive tick for this paper. Okay, now we get on to the actual dailies and the monthly setup and everything like that. And so at the start of every month you get this page. It's another quite highly structured page that I have adapted for my own uses. So what I've done is I've taken the goals from earlier in the book and expanded them out here and just added a bit more colour to them. So drilled down into a few more daily tasks and habits and things that I need to do to achieve the overall goals. I like having this here. I don't like necessarily having something as structured. I really struggle to kind of work out how best to use these pages that would use them all and would make sense, which is why I've kind of used this for my goals because it just about worked. But for this, not quite sure. I feel like it could work well as a bit of a review for the month, or just other kind of maybe setting intentions or calling out key events from the month. Yeah, it's the structure of it is quite kind of, there's a lot to it, but the fact that the titles are so small for each of the boxes, I do feel like actually you could, staying within the confines of how many boxes there are, you could change these boxes quite easily to what you want them for. But just it's a very interesting setup in terms of how they've got, you know, things split up. And yeah, so it might take a little bit of work to get this to work for you, but I do like having it here and having this kind of setup page. We then go on to the dailies, and I have pretty much kept to a kind of pretty set way of using them, and it's worked really nicely for me. I've enjoyed it, and how I've done it is to basically split up my task list. The top is for kind of life and home stuff, and then the bottom is for everything Lethbridge paper. So anything to do with the shop or YouTube or blog all goes in here. I then use this purely as a planning area in terms of appointments, events, and then what I have also done is used it to, I think probably in the earlier ones, yeah, just used it as a bit of a, what did I do this evening? Because if I did just kind of sit at home and play games, or if Matt and I decided to go to the pub, I would write it in there, just a bit of a, to kind of fill it out. And it's quite nice to actually know what I've done, because one thing that I do find, particularly if I'm scrapbooking, trying to go back and see what I did and when, if it's a booked up, you know, appointment, so a gig or something, it's obviously in my planner. But if it's just something that we did ad hoc that was quite fun that I want to scrapbook about, can I find when or what I did? No, not normally. So having the space to be able to actually write this in on these has been quite nice actually. And that's the simplicity of how I've been using it. I've literally just had it open on my desk like that I can use and refer to throughout the day, and it's worked really well. It's been nice having an area to kind of make some notes, so if I took a phone call or if I needed to work something out, having all of this space meant I didn't need to worry about kind of using up any room, because I had lots of it, because it's a pen only planner and because it's kind of a bit of a I'm not going to say messy, but I guess it's messy in comparison to some of the kind of ultra perfectly planned out planners. I didn't feel like I couldn't use it just to kind of capture a few odd notes, and that I was going to mess up the pages if I did that. And it was quite freeing just to have that and not have to try and find a notebook that I could make a note in. I can just use this for it. It's fine. I haven't used this under here. I'm not a mood tracking kind of person, so I have left it blank. I also haven't used this. I haven't really figured out how. I suppose the only thing that would jump out at me would maybe just to mark off any days coming up where I know I've got plans, but then I set up my week by writing everything in kind of in the same way that I would a weekly planner anyway, so I don't necessarily need that. Equally, I haven't used this space either, but it doesn't bother me. Maybe if I was in this longer term, it might bother me not necessarily using every space. Who knows? I suppose it does come back to that it is quite a structured planner. There's quite a lot going on in here, and for some people it may be a restriction on it, because if you don't necessarily have a use for all these areas, you may feel like it's a waste of space, or you might not like having that empty space and then wanting to kind of purpose it. It's because of the way it's printed and the way it's set up. I don't feel like you have to use it in exactly, and I feel like that for a lot of Japanese planners actually. They're so well put together that you don't necessarily have to use it exactly how they've set it up. You can adapt a lot of the areas. It's just whether you're up for either doing that adaptation or leaving blank areas and not using it. So in terms of my thoughts on this planner after a few weeks in it, I am absolutely adoring the paper. I need to seek out more of this paper because I never thought I'd cheat on Tomorrow River paper, but here we are. And so for next year, I will absolutely investigate their planners more and see, because I know that they don't just have daily, I know they have weekly versions as well. So I think I will probably look to maybe buy a slightly different one for next year, or at least kind of investigate the options. I'll be in Japan in September, so hopefully if they follow a similar release schedule as Hobonichi, I will be able to pick one up while I'm out there. In terms of this actual specific one, I think it does work and it doesn't. So one thing for me is I like to plan out my week in advance. I like to be able to see my week at a glance and go, right, okay, what am I doing on this day? And what's a busy day that I need to not put a lot of tasks in, and what's a quiet day that I can fill up with, all my household chores and all my house admin because I haven't got a lot on. This makes it possible, but not quite as easy. And so while it's been nice just to have a notebook sat on my desk that I can just kind of scribble away at each day, I know deep down this isn't the way that I plan, and it's been a lovely experiment and I've really enjoyed using this paper, as I keep going on about, but it's just not for me. I feel like I think I could potentially get around it and do something different with kind of my Monday maybe, and set up my Monday as a bit of an overview. I could play with it, but I think knowing that I have my Hobonichi cousin or my Hobonichi weeks that will allow me to do that, or even my take a note still, I don't think that there's any point in me trying to adapt this. What I would say though is if you are more of a daily planner, I would all day long recommend this planner, particularly if it's going to be your ride and die all in one. It's got so much in terms of the extra pages at the front to allow you to kind of set up your year and your goal planning and things like that, and it gives you so much space in the monthly and in the dailies to kind of keep your whole life in. If you are a daily planner and maybe an A6 is too small for you, or you don't like the cousin because you don't like the weeklies, I do think this is an excellent alternative. I do see a lot of people, asking for recommendations on Facebook or Instagram of, I want a daily planner, but I don't want the weeklies in a cousin. I would recommend this all day long. If you want to keep everything in one book, because obviously this is only 6 months, then that might be your only downside. But for me, it's a minor downside. It does mean that you end up with a much thinner book that if you wanted to take out and about with you, you absolutely could. And so that was the Jibun Techo, a lovely little experiment. Really enjoyed playing this. It really helped me kind of refine what I want out of a planner and kind of leading me more around, do I need a pretty planner that is set up beautifully? No, I need something that I can kind of make quick notes, not be too precious about. And yeah, this definitely speaks to me in certain ways. I just need that weekly view. So I think absolutely love this planner, love the paper, love the brand. We'll absolutely be looking at what from them I can use next year that isn't necessarily this one. In the interim, I do actually think that this would make a really good work planner. I currently use a Hobonichi A5 kind of blank grid notebook. Well, not blank, but you know what I mean. It's yeah, just their standard grid notebook, which I just use as a bullet journal. When that's full, I may potentially use the second one of this for the second half of this year, because I think it would work for me in terms of how I plan at work and how I do my days. So I don't think the other half of this book will go unused. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this little review, this little experiment. If you do have any questions about the planner, or if there's anything that I've not been 100% clear on, please drop me a comment. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you've got. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye.